Okay, this is lab 3. Go ahead into this course's Blackboard shell. Have to log in. Okay, click on Intro to Databases. Go to your assignment link. Click on it. Find Lab 3. And read the instructions, and it's going to tell you to download those 3 files, save them to the computer you're using, open the instructions file, and perform the task listed. So I'm going to click on each one of these files and save them to my desktop. I'm going to minimize on my windows, since I'm going to have to get back to them to submit my answer file. I will open my Access Lab 3 instructions file on my desktop. And the first thing we're going to do here, and we're doing queries, which we did in the first lab, and that's just retrieving specific information from your database file. So we're going to open Lab 3 work file that you downloaded from Blackboard for this assignment. If the Enable Editing button appears, we need to click on it to enable editing, enable content, so we can make any kind of changes. So I will open my Lab 3 work file. I do not have the Enable Editing, and you may not. So I'll bring up my Word document. We're going to import data from another file. We're going to do this so you don't have to do a whole lot of typing. You did a lot of typing in that last lab. You made a lot of tables and entered a lot of data on all the records. So we're going to import information, data from another file, so you don't have to do all that typing. So we're going to import the athletes Excel spreadsheet into our Lab 3 work file, our Access file. And we're going to import it as a new table. The steps are listed here, how to do them, so I will demo that. I'll bring up my Access file. Up on your ribbon, you need to click on the External Data tab. We're going to be in the Import group. We're importing, which means we're bringing information into this file. And the file that we're getting the information from is an Excel file. So in the Import group, you must click on the Excel file. Okay, in the Get External Data, click on the Browse button and go to your desktop and find, or wherever you saved all 3 files at, find the athletes Excel file and either single click and click the open button or double click on it. Click OK now. And we're going through a wizard, so we just have to answer all the questions. Keep clicking next till it's happy. We've answered all its questions and you have nothing but the finish button. So make sure you select Show Worksheets. Click Next. Check mark first row contains column headings. The spreadsheet is designed so that the field names, such as student ID, first name, last name, are in the first row. It just makes it a lot easier to import. Click Next. Accept all the defaults here by clicking Next. We want to choose our own primary key. We don't want the system to add a new one here where the ID is. We already have a student ID. So click in the button in front of Choose My Own Primary Key. We want it to be student ID. It should default to the first field, which is student ID. If it doesn't, click the drop down arrow and change it. But you want it to be student ID. Click the Next button and import this to the table, and the instruction says to call it athletes. So you can just delete out that first word and then click Finish. We don't need to save these steps. They're too easy, so just close that out. You should now see in your navigation pane a brand new table called Athletes. Okay, I'll bring up my Word file, which is the instructions. We're on step 3. And the new Athletes table changed the student ID and the zip code to a text data type, and set the zip code to a size 10 and the state to a size 2. I'll bring up Access. I'm going to open my athletes table. I'm just going to double click to open it. The changes I'm going to make, I'm going to do them in Design View. So I'm going to click on my Home tab, and the very first button is your View button. I'm going to click the drop down arrow and go to Design View. And the changes we need to make is the student ID. We need to change the data type to a text. The zip postal code, we need to change it from a number to text. And then we are also going to change the zip code, so make sure your insertion point that you have the active field is zip code postal. We're going to change the size down here in the field properties in the bottom of your screen to a 10. And then on the state and region, make sure you click in the field called state and region to bring up the properties for the field properties for that particular field. We're going to change that to a 2. Okay, I'm going to bring up my instruction file. That was step 3. Step 4, we're going to create relationships in the table. We did this in the first lab. We need to create a one-to-many relationship between the student ID field in the athletes table and the student ID field in the scholarship awarded table. We want to enforce referential integrity, and then we're going to save and close the relationship. So I will, down on my taskbar, bring up my work file. I'm going to close my athletes table. If it asks you to save it, always say yes. And don't worry about it being the data being lost, because we made these changes after the fact, so there's nothing in there. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the information's in there, but it's not going to affect what we did. So that's just a warning, because there were already records that we were changing design that may affect it. Okay, to build a relationship, up on your ribbon, click on the Database Tools. In the Relationships section, click on Relationships. Add both of these tables to your relationship window. And how you do that is make sure you have the Tables tab active. Click on the first table and then click the Add button. Click on the name of the second table and click the Add button. Now close your Show Table dialog box. The athletes table, it said student ID from the athletes to the students, so I'm going to rearrange these, and all I'm doing is left clicking on the title bar and assuming my athletes table is my primary table. So this is like any window in a Windows environment. You can move it by clicking on the title bar. You can widen or heighten a window by clicking on the very border of it and making it wider or taller if you can't see everything. So the relationship is student ID from athletes on the directions to the student ID in the scholarship. So left click the student ID field in the athletes table, hold that mouse button down, don't let go, and then point to the student ID field in the scholarships awarded table and let go. And you should see the relationship is from student ID to student ID. We're going to check mark enforce referential integrity so that there aren't any orphans. I cannot add a student ID here in the scholarship awarded if they do not exist in the athletes. That would be meaning I've got a scholarship for a student who does not exist. So it will not let me do that as long as I enforce referential integrity. Click the Create button. Now we can close the relationship window and definitely say yes, you want to save it. So now we're on the queries. And these queries would not have worked if we did not build that relationship from those two tables. If we want a query and we want both tables involved in it, we need fields from both tables. So you have to build that relationship. Okay, the first query involves a numeric query. And what they want to know is which scholarships are in the amount of $300 and for which sport. We want to display the scholarship name, sport, and amount, and save this query as 300 scholarships. You're going to see on each one of these queries you have a design view and a results view. Design is how you set it up to pull out the information that the question is asking. The results is what it should look like after you run the query. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my And this just shows you that I need scholarship name, sport, and amount, and that the criteria is the amount has got to be 300. So I'll bring up my access. On the ribbon, we're going to click on the Create tab. In the Queries group, the wizard is the easiest to use. So we're going to use the wizard quite a bit, but I'm going to show you how you can also build a query in the design. The query design, we'll do a few of those later. So click on Query Wizard. We will always do a simple query wizard. Click OK. And they want, this is going to be from the scholarships awarded table. Now if you notice, it's defaulting to athletes. And the field requirement was scholarship name, sport. The scholarship name is not in here. So you have got to go back to the scholarship awarded table. So click on it. We need the scholarship name. So either double click scholarship name or click once in the selector arrow. We want the sport. So select the sport in either method that you prefer and the amount. So those are the 3 fields required. Click the next button. We will always do details, so click the next button. And we're going to name this $300 scholarships. $300. Now we have to modify this query. The reason being is the query doesn't have that criteria of 300 in it. So we have to go to the design view. And that's how you get to the design view, is click on the modify and then click finish. Now this is the view that you should see in the handout, on your instruction sheet. The criteria is the scholarship must equal $300. So find the cell that intersects the amount column and the criteria row and type in 300. Now up on your toolbar, your toolbar, the second button with the big red exclamation that says run it, and now let's compare our results, what we should have gotten from here. So Jefferson Falls for Virginia Dolphin. Jefferson Falls for Virginia Dolphin. So it is correct. Okay, so I'm going to close out this query. So just follow the line here where it says the scholarship. Close it out because we're going to do another one. If it asks you to save it, say yes. And notice over here we should see our queries growing. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not seeing it. So on where it says all tables, I'm going to drop down that arrow. I'm going to do by object type. And there it is. So either do tables and related views to get that queries up where it says $300 scholarships, or object type. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stick with object type because we're doing nothing but queries, so we should have several right in here when we're finished. Okay, so the next query, we're going to be using comparison operators. And we want to display which scholarships have been awarded in the amount of 300 or more for which sport, and with the sports names listed in alphabetical order. So we're going to display the sports scholarship name, sport, and amount. The criteria is anything over $300, but we want it sorted in alphabetical order. So you can see here from the design view, we're going to have to click the sorting to make it ascending. And in the criteria and the amount was going to have to be a greater than symbol 300. So I will bring up my access file. I'm going to do create in the queries, query wizard, simple query, okay. And I need the scholarship awarded table again, so change it. And we want the scholarship name, the sport, and the amount. Same fields as last time. Click next. Detail. We're going to name this $300 $300 or more. I forgot how I put it in there. Yeah. Or more scholarships. We will have to go to the query design to get to the design view to put in the requirements. So I'm going to click finish. And the criteria was it had to be more than 300, so find the cell that intersects the amount column, criteria row, and we're going to type in a greater than symbol and 300. But we need this sorted ascending by sport, so make sure you find this cell that intersects the sport field and the sort column. When you click in that cell, a drop down arrow appears and select ascending. Up on your toolbar, click on the big red exclamation to run it and check the results here with what is listed here. Virginia, DC, Craig, DC, and Craig, and that's correct. So close this query out. If it asks you to save it, say yes. The next one we're going to do is a between comparison operator. So now we want to know which scholarships were awarded between August 1st, 2016 and September 30th, 2016. We want to sort this query by the sport name, and we'll display the fields scholarship name, sport, amount, and award date. So it's basically the same fields except we're adding awarded date. And we want this sorted in ascending order by sport. So you're going to see here in the design view, we need to click in the sport cell that intersects sort and do ascending. And as far as the criteria, we have to type in between 8/116 and 9/30. I'll bring up my access file. We're going to create, and we're going to do another query wizard. It will be a simple wizard, so okay. We need to go to the scholarship awarded table, and we need the scholarship name, the sport, the amount, and the award date. We'll always do details, so click next. And we're going to name this award date, awards August through September. Okay. Awards August to September. We're going to have to modify it because we do have criteria we need to apply to this, so click finish. And one criteria was it should be sorted in ascending order by sport, so find the cell that intersects the sport column and the sort row. Once you click in it, you'll have a drop down arrow. Click on it, click ascending. And in the award date, this is the criteria. So make sure you're in the cell that intersects the award date and criteria row and type in the word between. It doesn't matter if it's upper or lowercase b. And the criteria was between 8/1/2016, and then do space, type in the word A-N-D, and then hit space bar, and type in 9/30/2016. And up on your toolbar, click the red exclamation run button, and you should have 3. And I show home, hoops, and Jefferson. Home, hoops, and Jefferson. That's correct. So let's close this query. Ask you to save it. Say yes. The next one, we're going to use a compound query. We want to answer the question, which scholarships over $500 were awarded for football? We're going to display scholarship name, sport, and amount. Save it as football over 500. I'll bring up my access file. I'm going to create, we're going to do design. Let's do query design. You want to use a wizard. It's just the easiest, but I want to show you that you're going to get the same results. If I do query design, what it does is it brings me up the tables right off the bat. If you remember in the wizard, the first thing we had to do is select which table we wanted. Same difference here. We need the scholarships awarded table, so click add. We can close the show table box window because we don't need it anymore. And then to get the fields that we want, you know, we would select the field and hit the arrow over pointing to the right to go from available to select or double click. The same difference here. We're going to double click the name, the fields that we want, and they're going to appear down here in our property sheet. So the first field we want is a scholarship name, so just double click. You will see it comes straight down into the bottom. We want the sport, so double click sport. And we want the amount, double click amount. Now the criteria is, and this is a compound one, that the sport has to be football. So find the, let me pull it up some. Find the cell that intersects the sport field in the criteria row and type in football. And it also, going back to this, which scholarships over $500 were awarded for football. So we have two criterias. We also want the amount, so find the cell that intersects the amount field in the criteria row and type in a greater than symbol and 500. Now you can't put in $500. You can't put a dollar sign in here. It will not work. So whatever you do, do not do that. Make sure you just use value. So greater than 500. Let's run it. We have 2 DC in the touchdown. If we check our DC in the touchdown, that's right. Okay. So I'm going to now, you know, now notice it says query 1 here. We never named it because we went through the design view. So I'm going to save it or close it. Doesn't matter. If I close it, it's always going to ask me to save it. It's going to ask me for a name. I can always save first and then close. Either method. If I click on save now, it's going to ask me for the name. And the name was supposed to be football over 500. And click OK. And let's close it. Our next query, we're going to use the OR criteria. And we want to know which scholarships over 400 were awarded in the sports of baseball or swimming. And what is the award date of each. So you can see the fields: scholarship name, sport, amount, and award date. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my query. We might as well, let's do the query wizard this time. I showed you how to do the design, so you're going to get the same results. We'll do the wizard. So simple wizard, okay. We need the scholarships awarded, and we need the scholarship name. And we need the sport, and we need the amount, and we need the award date. Click next again. We're going to call it swimming or baseball over 400. Swimming or baseball over 400. We must modify. Let me show you what would happen if you accidentally, let's say you forgot to click the modify button, and you just click finish. You see everybody. That's not the criteria. All you have to do is, if you do that accidentally, go back up here on the home tab, go to the design view, and you're exactly back where you need to be. So just remember you need to get to design view. Whether you do the modify there or run it and then go through the home and the view button, either way will get you back to the design. Okay, the criteria was it had to be baseball or swimming, so find the cell that intersects the sports field and the criteria row and type in baseball space or space and swimming. And the other criteria was the amount had to be greater than $400, so find the cell that intersects the amount field and the criteria row and type in a greater than symbol and 400. Let's click on the big red exclamation to run it. And there's only 2, Rivers and Virginia. I'm going to check my results here. Rivers and Virginia, and we got it right. Okay, I'm going to go back to Access, and there again, I can save it first. So up here on my Quick Access toolbar, click on the diskette to save it, and then close it. Where previously I was closing it, then saving it, because the minute I closed it, had I not saved it, it immediately asked me to save it. So you can do it either way. If it hadn't been saved, it will ask you. And you can see, look how our queries are building up here. So our next query here, we're going to use a query with using more than one table. And this is where we had to build that relationship or this wouldn't work. We want to know what is the name, email address, and phone number of the athletes who received swimming or tennis scholarships, and what is the name and amount of the scholarship. So we need first name, last name, and college email and home phone. That's going to be all from the athletes table. Then from the scholarship table, we need scholarship name, sport, and amount. We're going to sort this in ascending order by last name. We're going to save it as swimming or tennis. So I'm going to bring up my Access file. Let's go ahead and create a query wizard. And from the athletes table, I need, so make sure it says athletes table, I need first name, okay. First name, last name, college email, and home phone. Now I need to change my table up here and go to the scholarships awarded, and from that table the fields I need is scholarship name, sport, and amount. Click next. We'll always do details. Click next. We're going to call this swimming or tennis. We need to modify the query, so click in the button in front of modify, click finish, and the criteria is we need anybody that received a sport of swimming or tennis scholarship. So find the cell that intersects. Woo, I'm getting too tired of doing this. Okay, the sport field in the criteria row, and type in swimming. Hit your space bar, the word or, hit your space bar, and tennis. Let me do this wrong. I want to show you. If I do T-E-M-M-I-S, I just want to make a mistake so I can show you how to fix it. Now, we were also to sort this by last name. So find the last name field and find the cell that intersects the last name and sort row. Drop down the arrow, goes ascending, and then run it. Now we have 4. Look how many we're supposed to have here. So I've got an error somewhere. Mine's not matching. So go back into Access, and what you want to do here is, if you notice, look how this is all swimming. There's no tennis there. Go back to Design View. So on your Home tab, click on the View button, go to Design View, and look at what you typed in. So see, I accidentally typed in the word tennis wrong. So I'm going to fix it, T-E-N-N-I-S. I'm going to run it again, and now let me check. Last two, Florence, Renato, yes, so they match. So that's how you go back and forth to fix them. Okay, now here, whether I save and then close, or if I close without saving, it's not going to let me get out unless it tells me, hey, do you want to save it, and say yes. So either way. Okay, we're going to use a wildcard this time. Wildcard means we want a certain term or letter or whatever in it, but the rest of it, it doesn't matter. It's just like you want a certain word. Best way is just to show you. Okay, here we want to know which athletes receive scholarships from local, either Rotary clubs, country clubs, or foundations. When you look at the scholarships awarded table, and you look at all the organizations, foundation in these titles look like they all appear at the end. Rotary, there's one. The Rotary, if it's a Rotary club, the Rotary always has, there's only 2 here, it has the Rotary at the beginning. And then if it's a country club, here's a country club at the end. No, the foundation has it. Yeah, foundation has it at the beginning and at the end. It's all over the place. So what we have to do here is we're going to use a wildcard because there's so many words in front or after these terms. We need every Rotary club. So that's why it's called a wildcard. So let's go ahead and do create query wizard, simple. And what we need here is from the athletes table, we need first and last name. But from the scholarship table, we're going to need an awarding organization. So we're going to have to use two tables again. So let me go ahead on the tables and get the athletes. And we want first name, last name. Now notice in here, this is just the student demographic information. We need the awarding organization. It's not in this table, so now we're going to have to switch back to scholarships awarded and select the awarding organization field. Click next. We want detail, click next. And we're naming this wildcard query. We have to modify here. We got to get to the design view and click finish. Now, find the cell that intersects the awarding organization and the criteria. We saw that the Rotary Club, all the Rotary Clubs had Rotary at the beginning. So what we want to do for Rotary is type in ROTARY and immediately type in a asterisk. And that says return me or display everything that has Rotary in it, and I don't care what's behind it. Whatever else, as long as it has Rotary at the beginning, display that. Now we also, and when I click for the next cell, it's a or, we have to put it in the next cell down. It's automatically going to put the like in for you. You don't have to type in the like. Now Country Club, all the country clubs had Smith Country Club or Jones Country Club. So Country Club was at the end. So this time we're going to type in a wildcard first and then the word Country Club. Because all the country clubs had Country Club as the last of the name. Now the thing with the foundation was that foundation had it at the beginning and at the end. So in order to get foundation anywhere in it, we're going to type in an asterisk, which is the wildcard, then the word foundation, and asterisk again. Because we had some foundations at the beginning, some of the organization names, some at the end. So here we need asterisk, foundation, asterisk. So let's run it. Let's compare it to our, here, Joel, Atlanta, Florence, and it's right. Okay, so I'm going to close it and save it. We'll move to the next one. Here we're going to use a calculated field in a query. What is the value of each scholarship if the annual association makes a matching 50% donation? So we have to calculate a field called matching donations in order to, we have to use the calculation. We have to take whatever scholarship they were given and add 50% to it. Okay. So we need student ID, scholarship name, and amount. Okay, so that's the fields we need. Once we calculate that new field called matching donations, we're going to have to change it so it's a dollar amount with the decimal places, 0 decimal places. Okay, so create, let's do query design this time. So I'm going to query design. And I need information from the scholarships awarded table, so I'm going to click on add it. I also need the athletes table. I'm going to add it. Close this out. Okay, so from the, let's see, from the athletes table, the first field we're going to display when we look here is student ID. So I'm going to double click student ID. Then the next thing we need is scholarship name, which is in the scholarships awarded. There again, I can make this bigger or wider. Scholarship name. Then I need the amount. And then I need a field called matching donations. This is a field that we're going to have to calculate. How you add a new field that is calculation, and access is, click in the very next Open Available field name. And up on your Query Tools Design tab, in the Query Setup, you have a button called Builder. Click on it, and the first thing we're going to do is type in the word matching. This is the field name that we want. Matching donations. And there must be a semicolon. You absolutely must type in a semicolon. So matching donations. And what it is the amount field times 0.50. So type in a square bracket, not curly, square, the word amount, for that's the name of the field that we need from our query. So amount, and then asterisk represents multiplication, type in asterisk, and then type in 0.50. So the field name is going to be matching donations with a colon. The field that we need is the amount, but it must be in square brackets, asterisk times, which represents times, and 0.50, and click OK. Let's run it, and you will see now to make this field bigger, I can't see all the name. If you point to the very edge of that field name, and when your pointer changes to a black plus sign with the arrow pointing left and right, just double click, it will make it larger for you. And you can see if you multiplied this, each one of these here, 50%, the calculations are correct. Now, we need to make this as currency, meaning it needs a dollar sign with 0 decimal points. We have to go back to Design View to do this. So up on your Home tab, the very first button, go back to Design View, and make sure your insertion point is anywhere in the field called Matching Donations. And on your Query Tools Design tab, in the Show Hide group, you have a button called Property Sheet. When you click on it, you have a property navigation pane on the right hand side of your screen. Click in the cell next to the Format field, Format Name. A drop down arrow appears. Click that drop down arrow, select Currency. On Decimal Places, click in the cell next to decimals. Click the drop down arrow and select 0. Now let's go back to our Run button and run it again, and you will see it should have all dollar signs, and each amount represents 50%. Now we did this in Query Design, so nowhere did it ask us for the name, so you see it's defaulting to Query 1. So I'm going to close it. It knows, and it knows it didn't save it, so it's going to ask me to save it. I'm going to say yes, and it's going to ask me immediately for the name, and we're going to call this Matching Donations. Okay, let's look at our next one. Okay, our next one is, we want to, well, that's great. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, we're going to do more calculations again. And this time, what we want to do is calculate the total dollar amount, average dollar amount, minimum dollar amount, and maximum dollar amount of all scholarships awarded. Right, isn't that the one we did? Okay. How we do this is, I'm going to open my Access file. And on the Create tab, I definitely need to use a Query Design this time. So I'm going to click Query Design. It should automatically bring up the tables. I've got so many pop-ups going on. And I need just the scholarship awarded, because all I need is the amount. So click the scholarship awarded table and click Add. Close your show table. And I need 4 different amounts. So in order to get the amount down to the bottom, just double click amount, but you're going to have to do it 4 times. I need 4 amounts. I need the total, the average, the min, and the max. And just like Excel, if you've ever been exposed to Excel, in Excel you have a sigma symbol that has a lot of functions built under it. So if you click up here on your Quick Tools Design tab and click on the sigma symbol, once you did that, a whole new row came in down here in your property sheet. It's called total. My first requirement was that I needed the total of the scholarships. So in the first amount field, in the total row where it says group by, click right next to the group by. You have a drop down arrow. Click that drop down arrow and select sum from that shortcut menu. The second column, click in the group by. Drop that down, and this one's going to be average, so click the AVG. In the third amount column, click the group by, drop that down, and this one's going to be minimum, so select the MIN. The last one, group by, drop down arrow, and this is going to be the max. Now, it also said to make sure that the field names are renamed so that they're total amount, average. Let me show you what will happen. If I don't change these names and I just run it, I get sum of, average of, min. They want the names to be total amount, average amount. So now I'm going to go back to design view, and how you do this is click in the first amount field and click in front of the A, the uppercase A in amount, and type in total amount, A-M-O-U-N-T, and then type in a colon and hit space. So what you have in that cell is actually total amount, colon amount. I know that sounds crazy and it looks crazy, but you have to have both amounts. The amount on the right hand side of the colon represents the field. The amount on the left hand side of the colon represents the name that you want to see when you run it. So on the second amount, click in front of the second amount, and this time we're going to type in average, A-V-E-R-A-G-E, the word amount, A-M-O-U-N-T, colon. And whether you put a space there or not, it doesn't matter. Do the third one. You're going to type in minimum, A-M-O-U, amount, colon, and leave the other amount there. I'm expanding the widths of these columns so you can see what would help. Yeah, so I get it right. And I know it looks strange, but that's the only way it'll work. And the last one, we want to type in maximum, A-M-O-U-N-T, colon. Now let's run it. And in order to, this is the select all. We learned that in one of the other labs. If I click that select all there, and then double click any line up here that separates two of the field names. Make sure your pointer is a black arrow with the arrow pointing left and right. Double click, it will widen every column to what it needs to be to display all of the data in there. So now my fields look a lot better instead of sum of. An end user probably wouldn't understand what you're doing when it says sum of, average of. Now let's look at our output here, and it looks right. Yes. Okay, so let's close this. Now notice we went to query design. So the default name is query 1. We're going to close it. It's going to ask us to save it, and of course it's going to ask us for the name, and we're supposed to call this total, well, get my caps lock off, total average min max scholarships awarded. Okay, click OK. I think we're on the last one. The last one is, what is the total dollar amount awarded for each sport? Okay, we want to display the sport with the total. We're going to rename this total awarded field to total awarded. We're going to save it as totals for sport. So we want to know the totals for each sport, okay? And you can see here, as far as the design view, we're going to, there again, click on that sigma symbol. We're going to get the total row come in, and we want just the sum of the amount field, and then we're going to type in, there again, the field name that we want, colon, and then we've got to leave that amount alone because the right hand side of the colon represents the field, the left hand side is the field name. So I'll bring up Access. Let's do the wizard. We'll click on the wizard. We'll do OK. I need the scholarships awarded, and what I need from there is the sport. Oop, I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to send it back. Sport, and then amount. Click Next. Next. We're going to name this Totals by Sport. Totals by Sport. We need to modify it, so click the Modify button, Finish. And what we want to do here is we have each sport listed. We're going to have the amounts. Up here on your Query Tools Design tab, click on the sigma symbol. The whole new row comes in where it says Group By. We need to group the amount. We want the amount to be the sum of each amount. So in the amount field in the Group By, click the drop down arrow, click on Sum, run it, and if I need to widen the columns. Now, there again, sum of amount doesn't make sense, so I'm going to go now back to Design View and change that name by typing in Total Awarded and the field name, colon, and leave the amount alone. I'm going to run it again, and now that makes a lot more sense. If I check it against this, it is correct. Okay, so I'm going to save this, close it, save it. Now we're finished, so totally exit out of Access so that it closes your database file. If you try to submit this file and it's still open, a lot of times I won't get it or I'll get a bunch of garbage. So you've always got to close out of Access. Totally close it out. I'm going to close my instructions file. It logged me out a while ago when I had all that mess going on. So go back into the assignment link, click on the title, click on the submission section, and browse and find your Lab 3 work file and submit it. And yell at me if you have any problems.